Hi, I'm Julia Kirby. I'm one of the editors of Harvard Business Review. I'm happy to have in the studio today Sheila Heen. She's an author I've had the pleasure to work with recently. She and Doug Stone have a book out. It's called Thanks for the Feedback, The Science and Art of Receiving Feedback Well. They also have an article in Harvard Business Review called Find the Coaching in Criticism. Sheila, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
So we all know that feedback is so important to our ability to get better, and yet it seems like in so many of the organizations that we work in, the feedback system is really broken.
Yeah.
But you have a kind of an interesting angle on this problem. You say that maybe we've been attacking the wrong side of that equation.
Yeah, I think so. So over the last 10 or 15 years, we've been working with organizations all over the world in all different industries, and every single one of them struggles with performance conversations. And so the usual response to that is to focus on teaching managers how to give feedback more skillfully and more often, to be more persistent. And that's great. It's helpful when managers have good communication skills. At the same time, it's still a push model of learning. And if the receiver isn't ready or able or willing to take it in, well, there's just so far that skillfulness or even persistence are going to go. So we think that actually we've had it backwards for a while, that the real leverage is in creating pull, in teaching people how to receive feedback well and drive their own learning.
So you see that as actually a teachable set of skills.
Yeah.
But you also see that there's a real set of barriers to people even wanting to do that. I mean, what is it that makes it so hard for us, even when a manager is doing an okay job of giving us feedback, for us to really take it to heart?
So one of the things I think that is core to understanding why most of us struggle with receiving feedback is that it really sits at the crux of two human needs. We all want to learn and grow. That's actually hardwired into satisfaction and happiness in life. But at the same time, we also want to be accepted and respected the way that we are now. And feedback sits right at that junction. And so we have reactions when we get feedback. And we've really taken a close look at the kinds of reactions we have and seen that there are really three kinds of reactions. We call them the three triggers: truth triggers, relationship triggers, and identity triggers. And I think of them as correlating with the challenge to see, the challenge of we, and the challenge of me.
So let's hear about those triggers. The first one, that challenge of see, or a truth trigger. What's going on there?
Well, it's actually really hard to see yourself. The one person I can't see in this interview is actually me. You're doing a nice job, by the way. But I can't see my own face. I can't actually even hear my own tone of voice. And then it's compounded by the fact that givers are often quite vague when they give us feedback. So they'll say, you need to work on your people skills, or you need to be more proactive. And so I'll have a truth reaction like, well, that's not true, or that's not fair, when I don't even understand the feedback yet, partly because I can't see myself and the impact I have on other people, and partly because they're being unclear.
And what about relationship triggers, that problem of we, you said?
Yeah. So all feedback sits in the context, it lives in the context of a relationship. And whether our relationship is good or strained, I can have reactions to who's giving me the feedback, how they're giving it to me, when they're giving it to me, where they're giving it to me, completely inappropriate, by text, seriously. And so I'm distracted from the what because I'm so preoccupied with the frustration of the who.
I get it. So I'm going to reject that feedback just because of the source. I don't trust the source. And then you had your third one, that was identity triggers, when it sort of offends my sense of me.
Yeah, so there are a couple things going on here. One is that we each have a story we tell about who we are. And we're going to be more sensitive to the qualities that we hold dearest, right? So I think of myself as fair and having good judgment. Feedback that questions that sense of myself is going to hit harder than if you tell me I'm disorganized, to which I say, yeah, that's not news. I wish I were more organized, but I'm not particularly sensitive about it. The other piece is that we're all wired differently. So I may be very highly sensitive to feedback, and you may be actually relatively insensitive to feedback. And that actually complicates things when we're giving feedback to each other or having a feedback conversation, because if I'm giving you feedback, I'm going to be much less direct because I know I would be very upset if someone said this to me. You may actually need me to be very direct because it won't get through otherwise. And vice versa, you're going to be pretty harsh and direct, I'm going to be devastated. So that actually complicates feedback in organizations as well as simply making it more complicated for each of us individually.
So a big part of learning to receive feedback well is, first of all, just even being aware that these triggers are happening to us. But in the article in HBR, you also kind of lay out these great pieces of advice. 6 of them you offer. We don't have time to go through all 6, so I'm just going to zero in on one, I think, and that's this advice to ask for just one thing.
Yeah. So often when we want feedback, we'll go to people and say, so do you have any feedback for me? That's a big ask, and it's not even clear how honest I want you to be. But if I go to you and I say, hey, by the way, as we're turning the corner to work on the next project, what's one thing I could do differently that would really help, that would really improve our ability to work well together? Off the top of your head, you probably do have one thing for me, and it will be very concrete and very specific. Too often we wait till the end of the year to have one big feedback conversation, or we do a 360 and we get a 20-page report, and it's too overwhelming. If we just went more frequently to various people and said, hey, do you have one thing that I can work on in the next 30 days or 60 days, you would accelerate your learning exponentially.
Okay, we're going to leave you with that. Thank you, Sheila, for coming, and a little bit of feedback for you. Well done.
Thank you.